The August 22nd, 2012 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Mr. Ansello? Here. Mr. Antelli? Here. Mr. Baroth? Here. Mr. Colby? Here. Mr. Haney? Here. Chairman Howland?
Here.
Mr. Wilcox?
Here. Okay, before we get started, I wanted to thank Legislator Mike Rocco, who served on this committee up until last month, for the hard work that he's done. And I'd like to welcome Legislator Rick Antelli. Thank you for being here. We're looking forward, I'm certainly looking forward to working with you. Okay. Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
Yes, we have 3 public forum speakers. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to address the committee, and we ask that you conclude your remarks when the timer sounds. Thank you for your cooperation. The first speaker is Judith Cartisano. Sure, you can grab them. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening. I'm Judith Cartisano, and I'm here to speak about fracking. My family has lived in Monroe County for almost 100 years, so our roots are pretty deep in this community. Because of this, we're inclined to view our county long-term and to always ask what is good for us in the long term. The SGICE is a document that also looks to the long term, but not necessarily in terms of what is good for Monroe County. The SGICE provides a plan for the exploitation of both the Marcellus and the Utica Shale. The Utica, which is already being extensively exploited in Ohio and is deeper underground than the Marcellus, extends throughout Monroe County and into Lake Ontario. While we might not see drilling in the short term in Monroe County, if the industry gains a foothold in New York State, it will continue its march throughout the state, and following logic of its own, will ultimately seek to exploit the Utica Shale. That tells me we need to protect our county now, today, and to not one day look back with regret over our failure to protect our county when we still had the opportunity to do so. I quote from a website called geology.com, "What we are seeing today from the Marcellus is only the first step in a sequence of natural gas plays. The second is starting in the Utica," end quote. I need to tell you that the first 21 requests for permits to drill in the Utica Shale in our state have already been filed. A Norwegian company, Norse Energy, is poised to begin drilling the Utica immediately should New York State allow fracking to proceed. And please understand that Monroe County is not protected from fracking just because it is not on the Marcellus. I ask that you not make short-term decisions based on that false assumption. Instead, I ask that you act to protect Monroe County in the long term by taking action now to ban fracking and all of its ancillary activities in Monroe County. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Barbara Boyce.
Hi, my name is Barbara Boyce. I'm currently a resident of the town of Riga. I'm a lifelong resident of Monroe County, as is my family. It is my request that the Environment and Public Works Committee recommend to the Monroe County Legislature that establishment of a countywide moratorium or ban on high-volume hydraulic fracking related activity in order to review and to write adequate legislation to preserve and protect our environment and our fresh water supply. New York State is a vastly connected water system. Monroe County has many rivers, streams, wetlands, and other water resources. Since fracking requires 4 to 9 million gallons of fresh water per frac per well, fresh water becomes a free-for-all. Do current county regulations protect the environment from depletion of fresh water in our region? Will the county be able to sustain its environmental health in rivers, wetlands, and watersheds? The DEC acknowledges that there are over 30,000 abandoned gas and oil wells in New York State alone that pose hazards to groundwater resources. Fracking produces huge volumes of toxic wastewater. Even when it is treated, there will still remain a large volume of highly concentrated toxic material to be stored indefinitely. Monroe County has an abundance of agricultural and open lands, and this open space could become potential storehouse targets for industrial toxic materials. This is a serious threat to our water and to our environment. Highway spills. If there are any accidents on county roads resulting in toxic spills into the land or water, do we have the capability to clean and protect the environment? The current travesty in Leroy, New York, with serious chemical contamination has not been handled by the DEC. It's imperative that the county institute a moratorium as soon as possible, such that grandfather clauses will not become the reason for potential destruction of our region's environment and water supply. Future generations depend on this. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Peter Maurer.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Peter Maurer. I'm a lifelong resident of Penfield. I'm here to call upon you to prohibit fracking activities and ancillary activities because of the risks they pose. Because I am limited in time, I will focus on the potential damage of spills. Many proponents of fracking insist that it can be done safely. While I agree with this point, with any industrial activity, there is an element of risk. In the case of fracking, the risks are great. This is because the fracking process involves multiple neurotoxins, carcinogens, and radioactive substances combined with high pressure that weaken the well casings. There are other places where failures can occur, though. To illustrate the potential damage, you will receive an article that you'll have copies made for you, is my understanding, that describes how Maryland's Attorney General demanded $500,000 from a driller because of a spill into a tributary that borders New York State. The toxic discharge crossed all of Pennsylvania into Maryland, to give you an idea of the impact that this had. The Maryland Attorney General argued that this spill endangered the people of Maryland as well as sensitive fish populations. So, while this Attorney General may have been specious in his claims, let me ask, would you let your company fork over $500,000 if you felt that they weren't responsible? Hemlock and Canadice Lakes supply water for the southern half of Rochester and Monroe County. What would happen if that water was rendered undrinkable due to fracking in the southern tier? Would you install ceramic membranes, ionizers, and boilers? Even if the chances for spills are small, they still continue to happen, and there's no reason why we should suffer any here. We need to ban fracking and its ancillary activities. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there anyone present who is not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Would you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Sister Grazia Lesperance. I'm a Sister of Mercy and a member of the Interfaith Alliance of Rochester. And I would like to piggyback on the statements that have been made about our sources of water. We have been blessed in our state and in our county with 10% of the world's fresh water. In a world that has increasing pollution of water, it is very important that we protect this valuable resource.
Up to 9 million gallons would be used per well. By 2020, that's only 8 years from now, 100 billion gallons of water could be required. This would overload our county and New York State. And this fresh water would be mixed with highly toxic chemicals, which have already been referred to. The DEC does not propose to ban any chemicals and would allow fracking waste to escape treatment as hazardous waste. Our current facilities in this county, particularly our sewage treatment plants, are not designed to deal with these types of hazardous waste or in such huge volume. We are also concerned about the possible contamination of groundwater sources from the occurrence of flowback, leakage, and spills. These could contaminate the whole Genesee River Basin and flow through our county into Lake Ontario. We beg you to consider a ban on fracking in Monroe County. Thank you.
Is there anyone else present who is not signed up to speak and would like to address the committee? Okay, if not, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the June 27th, 2012 minutes of the Environment and Public Works Committee before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business.
Referral 12-258, authorizing intermediate.
Moved by Mr. Legislator Colby, seconded by Legislator Antelli. Is there any discussion? Legislator Wilcox.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if someone from the administration could just tell me what encompassed the assessment that was completed as part of this referral. How was it conducted?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if I may first respectfully acknowledge Paul Houlihan, who's here from the City of Rochester. Paul, as you know, is the Commissioner of Environmental Services for the city, here in support of this referral. As you may know, the city has been providing these services to the county since 1996 and has been authorized twice before in an intermunicipal agreement and will serve 13 departments, including MCC, Community Hospital, and the airport. And we'll be making up to 84 stops, collection stops, up to 3 times a week. So we have a lot of information and data by which we could base the pricing, which is represented in the referral today. We went through a process where we compared the city rates versus waste management rates, which are currently on state contract. So we went through an iterative process and best and final.
Well, I apologize. I should have been more clear. I meant the environmental assessment. I apologize.
Through the chair, as you know, we evaluate all projects. This one being an ongoing existing effort would not require any further environmental review, and it was determined that there would be no significant adverse environmental impact.
Okay, so there was no environmental assessment needed?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Was one done in the past?
Through the chair, I'm not aware if there was.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Colby.
Just to expand on what you were, through you, Mr. Chairman, what they were talking about earlier, you referenced waste management as that's off the state bid. Must be they have a flat fee on that bid. Did you put it out for RFP or anything to see if there was any other haulers interested in the Rochester area?
Through the
county
chair,
area?
Through the chair, we did not.
Legislator Wilcox.
I just want to make sure we're looking at the right one, because I do see in the referral that it does say an environmental assessment was completed. Through the chair, I'm actually talking about the referral.
Yeah.
Referral is just
Right.
about picking up Monroe County's waste. Is that not true, through the chairman?
Through the chair, this involves collection of solid waste and recyclables generated at county facilities. And I'm not aware that we went through a detailed environmental assessment, but typically projects that we put forward through our referrals do require an initial review. And it may have been determined that no further environmental assessment, a detailed environmental assessment was required, that simply the collection of solid waste material transferred to a landfill would not require any further detailed assessment.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that I understand your answer. It does say that environmental assessments were completed. So what you're saying is you do not believe any were completed, and that in fact they may not be necessary?
Mr. Chairman, as the statement says, it was determined there was no significant effect on the environment, so that's why they did not do a full-blown environmental impact, I assume.
Through the chair, based on the type of action, the collection of solid waste material, it did not require any further detailed assessment based on the requirements by seeker. So it was assessed and determined that this action would require or would not generate any significant environmental impact. So I guess there's really not much more that went into our assessment other than that, determining that there really would be no adverse environmental impact based on the collection of this material.
Okay, I appreciate the answer. I think I'll follow up with you in a letter just to get clarification exactly what you mean by that, because it's a little confusing when it says they were completed, and yet I'm hearing that, at least the way it sounds to me, is that nothing was really done. It just determined that there was nothing necessary. That's sufficient. Thank you.
I think they'll find that it's a matter of semantics, where it's a
Yeah,
standard phrase that you see in many of these types of referrals.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of standard phrases that have been wrong over the years. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may just clarify, it was assessed. I understand the way it's represented here, it sounds like there were detailed assessments. Very routinely, projects they're initially assessed and determined that no further detailed review is required, and that's what occurred in this circumstance.
I appreciate that. Now, I think I'd just follow up and ask how that assessment works. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. On a totally different note, I just wanted to ask a question of clarification through the chair. It noted in the first contract, it's for $525,000 for a 30-month contract, and it'd be renewed for 2-year intervals twice. I just want to check and make sure that those intervals of 24 months are not for $525,000, but in fact be prorated 80%, so approximately $420,000 plus the 2% increase. Would that be accurate to believe?
Through the chair, the amount, the estimated annual cost is an annual estimated cost.
Correct. But through the chair, for 2.5 years, starting from July 1 to the end of 2014, that's $525,000, correct?
Through the chair, that would be the annual amount, and so if...
I misunderstood then. I understand now. Thank you so much.
Is there any further discussion? There being no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Referral 12-259, amend the 2012 capital.
Moved by Legislator Anselli, seconded by Legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, the third paragraph of the transmittal says a geotechnical investigation program has identified significant local areas of non-native materials which must be removed from the airfield, properly disposed of. What does that mean?
Through the chairman, the non-native materials described are metals, ash, brick, and other materials that, as the airport was once used as a city landfill, a dump, those materials were found in the vicinity and in the area of construction for the new taxiway.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Ansello?
What kind of quantity are we talking about? Through the chair. Excuse me.
Through the chair, it is estimated at this point in time to be approximately 4,907 tons or 2,885 cubic yards of material.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, when did this geotechnical survey occur?
Through the chairman, I will have to get back to exactly when that took place. It was during the, between the time that I last came to this body and it was approved that the engineering and consultant work be done, which was approximately May, and now. It's just basically while the engineering and construction design phase was underway this summer, that's when the materials were found in many different areas.
Thank you. Then through the chair of the administration, am I correct to assume then that that in fact means it occurred after the environmental assessment?
Through the chair, that is correct.
And then as a follow-up question, is the nature of the material such, and I don't know, I realize that hazardous is a very wide range thing, is the nature of the material such that an environmental assessment might need to be redone, or is that considered not to be the case?
Through the chair, the materials that have been identified are brick, ash, and non-corrosive metals. That's the determination. And all of the materials found to this point have been deemed non-hazardous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The item passes.
Referral 12-260, amend the 2020.
Moved by Legislator Colby, second by Legislator Antelli. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I know that this increase for the documents to support proposed capital improvements was for $250,000. Is that a correct analysis? It is $250,000 increase?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Thank you. And then through the chair of the administration, that's approximately 38% of the cost, and I'm curious why such a great increase for something that was, I believe, not a new regulation. What changed from the point of view of the necessity to provide this documentation? Why is it more expensive now than it was before?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the master plan itself is a document that the FAA would require us to produce, to update our own maps and other construction-like projects. But The scope of this master plan that this body approved back in 2011 has changed. I have changed the scope of the project to include other forecasting tools, if you will, such as passenger safety, security, also airline service development. What can we do better to increase revenue? So there's analysis that has been included in this new estimate that will have a return on investment and actually have a forecast and where we should focus our attention to serve the passenger. So whereas in the past it has focused, the master plan itself has focused on construction, safety, taxiways, runways, and possibly terminal development, this master plan includes financial analysis.
Thank you. Through the Chair of the Administration, I just want to say that's an excellent answer, and I very much appreciate that, and I heartily support the idea of, frankly, as you put it, investing now for the future revenues. That's an excellent approach. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Being none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, the item carries.
Referral 12-261, authorize the contract.
Moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by Legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Legislator Colby.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the two buildings that are referenced in this to be removed, are they being used for anything presently?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, currently one building is vacant and has been vacant for quite some time and is unrepairable. I've deemed it unrepairable. The second building is storing equipment that is not in use currently by the fixed base operator. So essentially, the buildings are not being used.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. So this design contractor here, they're going to look at, make sure there's no asbestos or anything when we demolish the buildings to include that assessment. Is that correct, through you, Mr. Chairman?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is correct, as well as the subsurface of the pavement underneath and any drainage issues in that area.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this project seemed to have been on the back burner, and it seems like you've brought it to the forefront. Is there a time-sensitive reason why we should try to get this project accomplished?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as I look to the future, and I've had folks tell me that there were 55 corporate jets or general aviation jets at the PGA 2 weeks ago in Kiowa Island, South Carolina. It would be my desire to have the project complete for the PGA next year, as well as we intend to have an air show in 2013 also. So it's my intent to have the project complete by June of 2013.
What you're saying, through you, Mr. Chairman, is that the parking facility for that type of event, in the past, you have had not enough, and this would alleviate some of that problem?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. I have been told that for previous PGA or U.S. Open or Ryder Cup events that jets have had to be parked on our general aviation runway, runway 725, and that obviously takes an asset out of service if we have to park aircraft on a runway.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? There being none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Referral 12-263, schedule a public hearing regarding the increase.
Moved by the Honorable Legislator Colby, seconded by the very Honorable Legislator Antelli. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, the item carries. Is there any unfinished business to come before the committee? There being no unfinished business, the August 22nd, 2012 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting will be September 26th, 2012 at 5 o'clock.